everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus. Welcome to the party, and today is indeed a party. We're going to talk about a really important charity here coming up in just a few minutes, and can't tell you how excited I am this time of year. I love Christmas. Look, I tell you before, fall is definitely my favorite season. But Christmas is by far and away, head and shoulders above anything else, my favorite holiday. I know some of you guys are Thanksgiving people out there. A lot of you guys are 4th of July people out there. Look, Christmas. I get so excited about Christmas that I have trouble not spoiling gifts that I've gotten for people because I'm so excited to give them to them. I mean, it's one of those things where if it wasn't such a production and there wasn't all this preparation that went into Christmas, nobody that I got gifts for would have anything to open on Christmas Day, Christmas morning, because I would give them all their gifts unwrapped long before just so that I could enjoy that moment in time. I know that's a little bit of a selfish thought, but it's just the way I am, man. When I buy gifts for people, I want those people to have them. In fact, I've let this affect my Christmas shopping from time to time. I've gone in late because I didn't want to spoil the surprise. And that's cost me a few times because you know how it goes, man. Late in the game, Christmas shopping is a gamble. And I'm a gambler. That's all I have to say. I mean, I enjoy the gamble. So, but this year, maybe not so much. And that's something else we're going to talk about today. We've got this port strike going on from Houston all the way up to New York along the eastern and southern seaboard there. I guess that would be called the Gulf. And it's really bad timing. And Denny and I will get into talking about this a little bit more in depth. But when you're thinking about Christmas shopping, you might want to get on that a little bit early because, well, the ports are striking all across the eastern seaboard. And that means that a lot of your goods aren't going to be coming in quite the fashion that they have been. In fact, I just heard that there's like some 50 boats sitting offshore waiting to be unloaded right now. There's nobody to unload them. Sorry. So that stinks, but we are going to talk about that. We're also going to cover a little bit of the Hurricane Helene aftermath. There is a lot of people without power as we're recording this, and I think it's important that you guys know because this news is definitely breaking, and you're probably following it as it's happening. We're recording this October 2nd and October 3rd. So there's a chance that some of these stats and numbers that we're going to give you a little bit later aren't exactly up to date, but it's going to paint the picture of the devastation that's hit so many states in the East and the South. North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee got hammered. It's Florida, of course, being down there where they're at, took it right on the chin. It was bad, and there's been a lot of innocent people that have passed away. There's a lot of devastation. The infrastructure is falling apart in a lot of places. So Denny and I are going to cover that a little bit later on in the episode. But first, right now, we're going to welcome in H&M driver Teddy Arnold, who has been on the show a lot, and he's also going to bring with him the director of the Truckers Christmas Group, Mark Abraham. Mark is, he's been on the show before, came on last year, a little bit later in the game. Truckers Christmas Group has opened up their nominations already, and we'll talk more in depth about all this. But Mark is coming on to tell us about Truckers Christmas Group and how you can get involved, be it as a volunteer, if you just want to donate, or they even have a store up on their website where you can actually shop for things, buy them, and then that money will be used to help the foundation, help some drivers that have fallen on hard times over the Christmas season. So really good stuff coming up in this episode, but it's time for me to get the heck out of the way and just let it happen. Please enjoy our conversation with Teddy Arnold and Mark Abraham, director of Truckers Christmas Group.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
All right, next up here on the H&M Trucking Podcast, Denny, I've got a special one for you, and this is going to be something you heard us talk about it last year around this time, maybe a little bit later than we are this year, Denny, but the Truckers Christmas Group is something that we heard a lot about last year from H&M driver Teddy and, of course, his buddy Mark coming on here to tell us about it a little bit. They're back today. We're going to give you all the information that you need so that you can go and donate. We're going to tell you all about Truckers Christmas Group, We're going to walk you through and also talk to you about the store and things like that. So super happy to have these guys here today with us, Denny. Please welcome to the show, Teddy Arnold, H&M Driver. Teddy, it's always a pleasure, man. Glad to have you back.
For the second week in a row.
I know. What's going on? Well, you delivered us some great breaking news there last week, so there's always a spot for that, my friend.
Right. And by the way, let me start 2 days away from it, and I really don't think my Spartans have a chance against you guys there in green, but after last week, but I have to say it, Sparty on.
Hey, I knew that was coming. What Teddy's referring to here is in 2 days from when we're recording this podcast, I will be at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon, watching my Oregon Ducks take on Teddy's Michigan State Spartans. And I'll tell you, man, I shaved an entire tri-tip last night down into nice thin slices. I'm going to be throwing that on the Blackstone. We're doing baked potato bar at the tailgate. So if you'd like to come, I say get a hold of your dispatcher now and get yourself rerouted, Teddy, because it's a long trip out here, but you're more than welcome at the tailgate.
Well, I'm on home time right now, Marcus, while we're recording this. I've got plans this weekend. I am going down to Ardmore, Oklahoma for the 53rd annual Cow Pastures Nationals at the Ardmore Dragway, which is a local NHRA regional track for the South. I want to say it's Southeast or Southwest Conference. I can't remember, but I'm going down as a spectator and looking very forward to it. They're saying that the car count could be up to 500 cars for this weekend.
Wow, that's really cool. Denny, are you a drag race fan? You ever been out to any drag races?
No, they used to have a drag strip just down the road from where I grew up, but it's not my big thing. I got powwow this weekend.
Oh, what's a powwow?
What's a powwow? We're going to need a whole show.
My word.
Well, okay,
my word,
listen.
Denny.
I was told that we weren't allowed to use that term anymore, so I just had to ask to see what it was because I've been scolded before for using that in a corporate sense. I once told some work friends, hey, we should have a powwow about this, and I was told that is insensitive. So
no, powwow is Native American dancing and arts and crafts and the history, and they've always got storytellers that tell the legends and the stories and the history behind Native Americans, and that's going on this weekend. So I plan to make at least one day of that.
Okay.
And the indigenous people embrace the word powwow when they talk about it.
So is it well? And Denny, you have quite a bit of Native American in your blood, right?
I've got Cherokee from both my mother and my father's side. Yes.
That's what I thought. So do I, as we'll just say it, token whitey here today, am I allowed to say powwow when referring to what you just said?
Well, that's what it's called, so I don't know what.
He's looking at me like I'm such an idiot right now, and I deserve it. I deserve every second of that gaze. All right, let's get to where we're actually here for, rather than discussing the finer points of our weekends. We have another guest here that's remained patient and quiet this entire time, where we're just sitting here talking about nothing, and that is Mark Abraham. He's the director of the Truckers Christmas Group. Mark, we appreciate your patience and willingness to put up with the three of us here. Thank you so much for being here today.
I enjoyed the banter, but thank you for welcoming me.
No problem. Now, Mark, talk to me about Truckers Christmas Group. Let's just set it up, just in case there's anybody listening that wasn't here for the last time we talked about this. Go ahead and take it from the top. What does Truckers Christmas Group do?
Okay. Well, Truckers Christmas Group is a group that began in 2008. It was formed by truckers who wanted to help truckers and their families that have fallen on bad times to be able to have a better Christmas. The core of the group of founders and many of its long-term volunteers are all involved in the venture, and they want this to be the best year it can be. Everybody involved in this group is a volunteer. All of us are involved in the trucking industry, and most of us are drivers, and we're doing this from the seats of our trucks. We're the sweepers sometimes. So we do this all from phone calls from all over the country. That's how we have our conference calls. We do have an office just because a corporation, a nonprofit corporation, has to have one, and it's a bedroom in my house. But we have an online store, and so people can go there and shop for things. Most of the items in the store have been donated by a company. In fact, the way we like to work it out is if a company wants to donate a product to be in our store, we work it out to where you as the customer, you go to our store and you say, hey, I want to buy that. And so you send us the money, and then we also get, the customer information of where to mail it to and all that good stuff. We relay that to the company that's donating it. And this works out for the benefit for everybody because we don't have to pay the shipping costs. The company that is donating the product can throw in some other materials advertising what other products they have, and they can develop a relationship with that person who's buying the product from our store. And of course it helps us out because we're getting money to be able to help trucking families out.
Right. Now, talk to me about kind of the nomination aspect of this, because you're going to use that money that you get that you'll generate from the store there from all those awesome donations. And I'm sitting here on your store's website right now looking through some of the options here. We'll go over them, some of them here in just a minute, because there's some really cool stuff on there. But how do drivers or people go about nominating drivers for Truckers Christmas Group?
There is only one way to do it, and that's to go to truckerschristmasgroup.org. That's our website, and then you click on the Nominate a Family link, and it'll give you instructions about, who can qualify and who can't. Nominate a trucking family. Here we go. So when you click on that link, it brings up the instructions that say, first and foremost, we have to have a valid phone number so the Christmas elf can be able to get in touch with you and the nominee. So the group is to help truckers and their immediate families. Rules of eligibility: they must have been employed as a trucker within the last calendar year and have the intention of getting back into the industry. Now, we have some room to play on that. There are times when obviously the driver's not going to get back into the trucking industry. We have helped families where the truck driver passed away, so we're helping the widow and children out, bringing them Christmas. Obviously, he's not going to be returning to work. That there's some room to play on that one. But subpart to this is if you're off to a disqualifying medical disability, but have been driving in the past 3 years. So let's say you've had a heart attack and, you've been off work for 2 years and you're still trying to get back up to where you can get back out there and get trucking. We can help out. So put in a nomination for that family.
Yeah, for sure. And it's super easy, too. I navigated over to it and was on the nomination page kind of reading through the rules here with you in seconds. And again, that website is truckerschristmasgroup.org. But go ahead, continue there, Mark. Sorry to cut you off.
Not a problem. They do have to provide proof of employment as a truck driver. A CDL is adequate. As long as you have a CDL, even if it's expired, then that gives us proof that we're helping a truck driver, because that's what we do. So we want to make sure the person is a truck driver that we're helping. It is only available one time in a 3-year period. Occasionally we have a family that we helped out long ago, and now they're going through another problem. And sometimes we've had them contact us the next year. Hey, we still need help. And, well, sorry, we can't help.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want them to become a dependent. We want to give them a helping hand.
Absolutely. And you want to give as many helping hands as you can. And so if you're constantly helping the same family every year, it's not that family doesn't need it, but it's that other people do as well. So you're just trying to spread the love.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, can I ask you a question? Because I don't know. I know back when I was involved, we had some nominations, but if a mechanic at a trucking company or an office staff personnel, can they be nominated?
We tried to get that through a few times, and no, they can't.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's the question. I know we've had. I know when I was involved previously, we had a couple cases, and we took the nominations and we discussed it. And I know that I haven't been involved in many years, but this is still passionate for me, Mark.
Right.
That's why you're here. I mean, if anything, I've got a voice.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And that's what we want to do with the podcast here is give everybody a voice that wants to come on and talk, especially about something as valuable as Truckers Christmas Group and the way that it helps drivers. Denny, did you have something there?
I was just thinking most mechanics have a CDL.
A lot of them do, and we would be able to help them in that case.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like, just to clarify it kind of centers around the CDL. There is the thing that if you're going to nominate somebody, just make sure that they've got a CDL or that they had one and, are fitting within these rules, which, again, you go over to truckerschristmasgroup.org, click on Nominate a Trucking Family, and it's a very clearly written set of rules there or guidelines that people have to fall within. And I don't want to get too hung up and spend too much time on that because people can research that and check that out as they see fit. But maybe we can turn and talk a little bit about how things went last year real quick. And I guess before we get off the nominations page here, Mark, we should tell them nominations are open as we speak, correct?
They are open as we speak, yes.
Okay, awesome.
I got a question before you go somewhere else, if you got a second.
Sure.
And, of course, I can go to the website and check that out, but since I've got the man, actually two of them here that can answer this, I was a little confused when you said go to the website and purchase. Now, are we purchasing, like I find something for my wife or my grandkids or whatever? Or are we purchasing things that are going to go to the needy family? That I sort of went, huh?
No. Now, you're purchasing something to give to yourself or your spouse or a friend.
Oh, cool.
So they're
Very
taking
nice.
that money, Denny, and putting it in their kitty, and then that kitty is what's going to help the drivers that get chosen out of the nominations there. So, and real quick, while we're on subject.
Well, hang on. I'm not through yet, Mr. Motormouth.
All right, well, we spent the first 5 minutes of this talking about football and powwows. I'm trying to move it along. I'm
does this have to be like a corporate sponsor to, a major manufacturer? Or the reason I ask is because one of my hobbies is woodworking, and I make handmade cutting boards and charcuterie boards. Can I make a donation, even though it would be a small one? It wouldn't be for this year, but for next year, just keeping it ahead.
Absolutely. We can work out whatever arrangement. Some of our sponsors aren't set up to where they could ship that out themselves. So they'll send us a product. We'll keep it in our store, in our actual warehousing, which once again is pretty much a bedroom. But anyway, we keep it in there, and then when somebody buys it, we ship it out. So.
Got you. All right. Well, get in touch with me next year. Remind me.
Okay. All right, Denny. I'll make sure of that.
Yeah, we'll make sure to keep you up on it, Denny, because there are, as I'm sitting here scrolling through, and Teddy actually mentioned this off the air to Mark. One of the things that's been on here both the years that I've been involved, and I've been looking at the website and trying to turn people's attention over to Truckers Christmas Group, is this beautiful handmade quilt that's up there in the store. It's the first item. Now, it does say it's sold out right now, but Teddy, talk to me a little bit about that quilt, because you said you were trying to get your hands on one of those things.
Okay. Idella Hansen is a veteran female truck driver. I want to say she's got over 50 years of driving experience. But Denny, you were talking a couple weeks ago about wanting to get a Women of Trucking podcast, episode. Yep. And I tell you what, Idella is salt to the earth. She is a volunteer. I assume she's still a volunteer with the charity, Mark. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Board member.
And board member, okay. But she and her daughter, I don't know, I think her daughter passed away, but they make handmade quilts. And Idella has always donated a quilt every year to, except for this year. Mark informed me off the air that She didn't do one this year, but they are beautiful handmade quilts, and every stitch is done with love, and she stitches them knowing that the sale of this quilt is going to help a family or two or three. It's going to go to helping families. Mark, how many did you help last year?
Last year was a down year. It was really disappointing for us. We only helped 7 families last year.
Man, still to help
We're
7
used to helping
families.
15 or more.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're used to turning up the numbers twice that. Well, I mean, still,
Yeah.
even in a down year, you're still helping 7 families out there that are down on tough times. I mean, I'll say, I know it was a down year for you, Mark, but great job. It seems like that's still a pretty big step in the right direction from my seat.
Mark, what's the history?
Go ahead.
How many families over the year since 2020? Correct? Was that the year 2020? You said
Since 2008, we have
Okay.
helped. Come on, Internet, help me out here. Since 2008, we have helped 273 trucking families with over $172,000.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Well, even in a down year, helping out 7, I'm telling you, that's great. And we're hoping to get that number back up to 15 with the help of all of you H&M drivers out there and anybody else that's listening. Again, and you're going to hear me say this 19 times during this segment, head over to truckerschristmasgroup.org. You can donate there too if maybe you don't need anything out of the store. Maybe there's nothing there that suits your fancy. You can send them money too. That's easy. I did it last year. I'm going to go ahead and do it again this year. It's very simple. In fact, last year it's so simple, I did it while we were on the air. I'm not going to do that this year because I don't want to bungle this up anymore, but it's simple. Head over to truckerschristmasgroup.org. And you can click the donate button or go look in the store. If you're a driver, just some of the things that are on here would be so cool for you. WeBoost cell phone signal booster for a tractor trailer. How about a Power Drive 150-watt power strip inverter? They've got headsets on here, multiple different headsets, a slow cooker. How about this one, Teddy? A 1-year membership to Owner-Operator Independent Driver Association, otherwise known as OIDA. You talk about them quite frequently. I know you are a card-carrying member. You can get yourself a 1-year membership package with a mug and a wallet right now at truckerschristmasgroup.org. And all you're going to be doing is helping trucking families on hard times here over Christmas. Teddy, tell me about that membership. You've been around with OIDA for a while, yeah?
I am a lifetime member of OIDA. And if those of you who aren't aware, OIDA is, you don't have to be an owner-operator to join OIDA. They go to Washington, D.C., and they advocate for all of us drivers who carry a CDL. They are instrumental in, help me out here, Denny or Marcus or even Marty.
They are a lobbyist.
Yeah, they're
So
okay.
they go and speak for truck drivers. Right now, one of the things they're supporting company drivers on is trying to get the per diem tax deduction back. So, owner operators can claim on their Schedule C up to, I think, $58 a day for meal expenses out on the road for every day that they are out on the road and can't go home to their home domicile. The last tax changes that they had, we lost the form that we were able to do that on, Form 2106. So they're working. OIDA is working with the Congress and the House to reinstate the ability for us company drivers to be able to write that off.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Teddy, the reason you probably couldn't think of the name of the word lobbyist is because that's always so negatively connotated because we hear so many stories about, garbage, big medical companies and stuff like that lobbying to make our medications more expensive and healthcare less affordable. But in this case, OIDA is definitely lobbying for a good thing here. And it sounds like not just, like you said, looking out for owner operators, but also looking out for company drivers. So appreciate that info there from both of you, Teddy and Mark. That's great to know. And hey, you want a membership to OIDA and you're thinking about getting one anyway, do yourself a favor and do other people a favor. Don't go get it directly through OIDA. Go over to truckerschristmasgroup.org, get it through their store, and you'll be basically two-folding that money because you'll get something great out of it. Truckers Christmas Group's going to take that money and put it in their fund so that they can help out needy families this year. So,
can you tell me how many memberships OIDA donated this year that you have to sell off for us?
I think we have 3 gift cards from them.
Perfect.
So there you go, guys.
There you go.
You don't have to rush to the website, but if there's 3 of you drivers out there who want to help support somebody who's fighting for us and want to help a family or to try and help one of 15, 20 families. I'd like to get it where we can help they get enough donations that they can help 20, 25 families this year. I don't know what the most they've ever helped. I know one year, I want to say we helped 17 that I was involved, and that was a good year. But I can't swear to it, But this organization, guys, like Mark said, it's everybody who volunteers is either a driver or involved in.
He is when he can. He's awful busy doing his farm and trucking, and so he joins in when he can.
But everybody has got a heart for drivers, and that's what attracted me to the organization and why I'm so passionate about it still,
Yeah. Mark, maybe we can talk about that from your perspective. What is it that attracted you to this thing and wanting to get involved and be the director? It's one thing to just raise your hand and say, I'll volunteer and help out where you can. It's a whole other ball game to take under the title of director. So what made you want to get involved here? What's behind this for you?
Well, Truckers Christmas Group started in 2008 with a trucking social group, and one of the guys on there was just having a pretty good year and said, hey, I've got $500. I'd like to help another family. I've got no idea how to do this. And so a committee was formed, and that's pretty much how Truckers Christmas Group started. I volunteered in 2010, and at that time I was just volunteering, joining in on the phone calls, listening to the interviews with the nominees and the nominators, and voting on who we could help and who we unfortunately couldn't help, because there's only so much money, and so those kind of choices have to be made. Anyway, I did that for 2 or 3 years, and at that time, by 2010, it was under the operation of another charity, a trucker charity, and
that's how me and Mark met.
Yeah. Well, what was it? 2014? I think it was 2014 when Lance gave me a call, and he said, Trucker Charity is kind of wanting to focus on its main mission, and we're kind of wanting to diverse ourselves from the Christmas group. And so he asked me if I would be interested in heading it up. And I enjoyed volunteering, so I said, yeah, I enjoy this. I want to keep it going. So reluctantly, I became the president. I set up the 501c for it, and so
the rest is
history. That ever since.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah.
It sounds like you went and cleared that room out in your house so that you could have an office. I don't forget that. That's on the timeline somewhere too, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, guys, I can't thank you enough for being here. Denny, I want to give you one more chance. Any other questions that you have or anything before we let Mark and Teddy go?
No questions. I just want to say my hat's off to you. over the years, in all those years of broadcasting, I was involved in multiple fundraising efforts, and a lot of them, they're heartwarming. They make you feel good, the people that are trying to help, but then sometimes the distribution, the people that come back year after year after year, it's a downer. And so my hat's off to you. I thank you for diving in and doing what you do, because it is important.
Absolutely. You know, Denny, I'm going to piggyback off of that comment a little bit, because I, being a former broadcaster myself, back in the radio days, got involved with a lot of different charities and things like that. St. Jude's, of course, is pretty popular for doing radiothons. Children's Miracle Network is another one that does those. And that was always our hang up as a show, was where's this money going? Can we actually see some of the success stories or some of the things that this money has done? Because we're raising a lot of it. And it was really cool. One year we were doing one for Children's Miracle Network, and we got to meet multiple families. And I'm almost tearing up just thinking about it. And this has been a decade ago. I haven't seen those people since. I know that they're thriving and things are going great, but to see the kids and the families and hear them tell their stories, it will melt a full-grown man into a puddle, okay? And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because we talk about testimonials. Where's the money going? Can we hear from the people that are actually affected by this? And the answer is yes. Over at truckerschristmasgroup.org, they do have a page with some testimonials there. There's one of them that's quite long up at the top. There's a couple of handwritten notes up there that you can take a look at. But I think this really brings it full circle for me. You get to see what it does, how it touches these families that get the help that they need so desperately in these times. And really, at the website there, truckerschristmasgroup.org, is everything that you need. You can learn all about it. Everything that we've talked about today, all this information is there. You can donate money there. You can buy something from the shop, get something for yourself, while also helping out Truckers Christmas Group. This is just a fantastic organization that you guys have put together, and I can't thank you enough for letting the H&M Trucking podcast, talk to you and just try to get the word out, because we want our drivers to know, but more than anything, we want our drivers to be talking about it as well, because we know they're talking to other drivers out there on the road. And the more and more and more people that we can word of mouth this thing to and get it out there, get it on the airwaves, get it on the CBs, that's going to be us doing our job. So Teddy and Mark, sorry, go ahead. What you got?
Let me piggyback on something you're saying there. You know, with those, you talk about those radiothons and everything. Those charities have board members that are typically paid. When you give to the Red Cross or the Children's Miracle Network or whatnot, a certain percentage of every dollar you give goes into their operating expenses. And Mark, I may be speaking out of turn here, but in years past, I know that the board members and buddy has come out and helped pay for the operating expenses, like the cell phone that you're speaking on and things like that. Every dollar that is raised during this campaign, I can truthfully say, goes to help these families. Not one portion of it goes to operating expenses. Is that correct still today?
That is correct. That's all coming out of my account. But, I'm happy to help out.
Yeah, well, we could tell. Mark and Teddy, thank you guys both so much. I want to give you a chance, too, for any final thoughts before we let you go. Mark, we'll go ahead and start with you. Anything else to say to anyone that might be listening about Truckers Christmas Group?
Absolutely. We could always use more volunteers, and there's a tab on our website that tells you about how to inquire as to how you can help out as a volunteer. So feel free to go to our website and check that out if you're interested in helping out.
That's Mark Abraham, director of the Truckers Christmas Group. Teddy Arnold, the guy that brought this whole thing to my attention here well over a year ago now. Any final thoughts from you, my friend?
Other than I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to see that us H&M drivers step up and help contribute to this cause. Don't need to toot your own horn or anything, but please, drivers, if you can only spare $5 out of out of your paycheck every week. That's $20 a month between now and Christmas time. That goes a long way to helping these families. If you could spare more, please spare more. But have a giving heart, please.
Absolutely. Well said there, Teddy. Thank you guys both for being here today. Again, one more time, just for everybody's sake, truckerschristmasgroup.org is the website. That's where you need to go to shop, to donate, to volunteer, and to nominate a family. Mark Abraham, Truckers Christmas Group Director, and Teddy Arnold, H&M Driver. You guys both be safe out there. I know you're both going to be on the road at some point in time soon, so drive safe, keep the shiny side up, and we will definitely get you back on here again, maybe even before Christmas. I don't know if I want to wait for another year. I might want to get you guys back on here for one more segment before so that we can help drive as many donations as we can, all right?
Great. Sounds great to me.
All right, fellas. Take it easy. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Denny, first of all, great stuff there from Teddy and Mark. Super happy to have those guys on, and you and I spent some time talking off the air. Both of us have a big soft spot in our heart for helping people out, especially around Christmas time. So get on over to truckerschristmasgroup.org and donate, shop, nominate a family, volunteer, do whatever you can, but help out there.
One of my favorites. Give me a minute. I got to tell you this one. Okay. Way back in the mid 80s, I guess it was. I was at a station in Bryan College Station, Texas, where Texas A&M is. And they did a thing called Radio MASH every year. And MASH stood for Make a Smile Happen.
Okay.
We bugged out. That's what they called it. We bugged out. They had like green, shirts made with MASH on them, and we all decked out in fatigues, and they put cots. They literally took the entire radio station. I mean, transmitters, the boards, everything out to this huge tent. This was an AM/FM combo, and set up on this tent up on a hill on a major intersection, and for 96 hours, we stayed there the whole time and collecting toys and donations. And it was so amazing. Little kids would come up and bring their favorite teddy bear. I mean, there were multiple times that it just brought you to tears. It was such a fulfilling thing. Anyway, that I'll stop now, but that's one of my major memories from our radio days. It was fun. It really was fun.
So 96 hours, I'm assuming you didn't stay awake that entire time. So did they have like sleeping cots set up for you guys in a different tent, or were you on shifts, or did you get to go home and sleep in your bed? How'd it work?
Sometimes you could break away, go take a shower or whatever, but we were pretty much all there. If you weren't on the air, you were helping out in some other capacity. And we would fill, I think the last year we did it, we filled like 20 semi-trailers with toys. Wow, and that doesn't count amazing. The monetary donation. And this is just a smaller medium market station. I think, not counting the 45,000 students, I think the population of that county was probably like 50,000. So it wasn't a huge radio market, but the response was just amazing. And it was such a cool feeling. It was an adventure every year. It really was.
I feel like college towns are a little bit special in that, right, where they can outdo themselves for certain charitable events like that. Eugene's a college town. This would not be a spot. It sits right on I-5, and the university is here in the town. If it wasn't, no way we sustain the population that we have in this city. And just, especially in the fall or early winter, the students will show out for charitable causes. And you get a couple of frats and sororities on board, all of a sudden they're rolling in with 200 or 300 people, and they have budgets a lot of the time, so they're looking to get involved. It's a really cool thing. And like you said, man, I wasn't very emotional back in my time as a radio host. I was a little bit younger. I wanted to be tough and look cool, and no emotions, nothing gets to me. After I did the second or third Children's Miracle Network fundraiser, I came home and cried my eyes out, Denny. It was unbelievable. And it's like, it changed me as a person. I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to take my sister and I to the little community center there where we grew up in Enterprise, Oregon, and she would get a name off of the giving tree. You know what a giving tree is?
Oh, yeah.
Really cool idea. And we never saw those kids. We never got to see who it was, but Mom would always get a boy about my age and a girl about my sister Mackenzie's age, and she would give them to us and let us read what they were asking for and let us go pick out the gift. I loved that. I thought that was the coolest thing when I was a kid, and I never got to see the looks on those kids' faces. Not that that's, the only reason that you do it, but I don't think that had as big of an effect on me back then as what it does now. Like, I really enjoyed it back then, but I didn't see it for what it was because I was a kid. Now that I'm in, I'm into 40 years old, I'm thinking, man, like just the fact that my mom was willing to even go do that is cool. And now I see the impact that it can really have through some of the charity work that I've done, through hearing your stories, because you've done a lot more than I have. And also talking to Mark and Teddy there for Truckers Christmas Group. I'll touch on it again. 7 families, you could hear it in Mark's voice. He wasn't happy that they were only able to help out 7 families last year. But that's 7 families. Again, I can't, like you said, hats off to them. You helped out 7 families. That's way more than I did last year. So, big ups
Well,
to...
You think, you think first of the kids, but then being a parent and now a grandparent, think of the dad or the mom. That Christmas is coming and they've got nothing. They're struggling trying to, keep the lights on and put food on the table. And, here are these kids.
Right.
So think of dad. And especially if like I say, he was injured and he can't work. He wants to work, but he can't work. How is he feeling? Mm-hmm. So you made a tremendous difference to that one dad or that one mom that wants to do for the kids, but food and lights and gas for the car to go to work's got to take priority. So you've made a huge difference in that family, and it may be just that one Christmas. Once they recover from that broken leg or whatever, they can push the clutch again. They can get back to work. You can just get them through that hard spot.
Yep. And you can help. truckerschristmasgroup.org. Head on over there. Once again, donate, volunteer, shop, or nominate a family. It's all at the website. You know what, Denny? We don't get to do this very often, but let's transition here. It's my breaking news button, but this isn't really breaking. Everybody knows, especially by the time this podcast comes out, about Hurricane Helene and all of the devastation centered there kind of in Florida, in Georgia, in North Carolina. This storm, Denny, absolutely wrecked some places. And I'm sitting here looking at a picture of Asheville, North Carolina, and it doesn't even look, it looks like a war zone. I can't equate it to anything else I've ever seen. I can see in this picture I'm looking at right now at apnews.com, a semi-trailer. I can see it because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 axles all spread out all over the place, flipped upside down, twisted into a pile. I mean, just absolute, utter devastation in these areas. And it's going to have an effect on trucking, whether we want it to or not. I know for a fact there's a bunch of roads washed out, places that you guys would normally...
numbers on that. In fact, you remember when Ed Martin joined us to talk about Bill's Big Rig Cafe, because Ed is Bill's older brother.
Yes, sir.
Ed lives just outside of Asheville. And there were 2 or 3 days went by. I couldn't hear from him, and I was getting a little concerned because I know he's right there. As of, let's see, well, today's Wednesday, October 2nd. So as of 11 o'clock this morning, the death toll had risen to 175. Wow. By the time this airs, that's probably going to be even more.
Right. And I'm sitting here reading an article from September 30th, which is just 2 days before that, and the death toll was only at 130. So you can kind of see what we're talking about here. This is only getting worse.
Yeah, as they get access to more and more roads, more and more areas, they're going to find more and more bodies. I mean, it's grim, and I hate to say that, but And from a trucking standpoint, this is a nightmare. You cannot get from North Carolina to Tennessee on either I-40 or I-26. They're both completely closed down, and will be. This is according to the North Carolina, whatever, DOT, more than 400 roads affected by the closure alert, including the two major arteries I just mentioned. The Tennessee Department of Transportation says it's going to be months of road closures. And Tennessee wasn't hit nearly as bad as North Carolina. In Tennessee, 5 bridges were completely destroyed, just completely gone. They're going to have to completely rebuild them. Condensing this just because, I can go on listing stuff forever, but the ones that are most going to affect the trucking industry are I-26 and I-40, both I-26 both in Tennessee and in North Carolina, and I-40, of course, right there at the border is completely washed out. But stay on top of it. You know how to check your routes. Make sure you check them, because if you normally take I-40 going into North Carolina, then you get as far as Knoxville and you go, oh shit, find a different route. Come in through West Virginia Turnpike. Come in from the south and come up 95. You're going to have to detour. You might as well detour. If you're coming in from the Midwest somewhere, you got a little room. Yeah, you might have to pay the toll on the turnpike, but you're not going to have to go, 5 hours out of your way.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. It's, $5 at the toll road is better than trying to ford the river because you're not going to make it across.
$5 in a truck, dude. I'd like to end my speech here with something positive, because this is all negative and heartbreaking, but there's a outfit called the Mount Ula. It's a mule packer ranch, a mountain mule packer ranch. They're using their beloved pack mules to truck it to get supplies in because the roads are out.
Yep, I did
and
see
people
that.
That's just one example of people coming together to get the job done. I've heard about people that are showing up in their driveway and just helping strangers cut the tree down so they can get in and out. This is what America is all about.
Yep, absolutely. And I've actually, I have some different stats here that I had looked up that I wanted to read, but the top one here is one that fits right in with what you're talking about. World Central Kitchen is a nonprofit disaster relief organization. I don't really care about World Central Kitchen, but they have donated over 64,000 meals in North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, and Georgia at this point. They've got 16 restaurant-based partners in North Carolina and Tennessee that have also distributed over 5,000 sandwiches. And they're setting up field production kitchens in Clearwater, Florida, and Asheville, North Carolina. So if you're listening to this and you have somebody that's affected in one of those areas, I think that's the reason I bring it up, is to say, get in touch with your loved ones and let them know that there is some place where they can just go get some food. You don't have any power. You don't have any water. Your house
may not have phone service at this point. My friends in that area still didn't have phone service this morning, but they've got their internet. They can get access to the internet. So find that way to reach out through some kind of social media. I've heard that there are outfits that are trucking in shower facilities so you can get yourself clean. There are like mobile laundromats that are coming in. Yep. This devastation reminds me of when the tornado came through Joplin, Missouri, and people came from all over that area to help, just come out and help strangers. And that's the feel-good thing that we Americans have always done. We get together when there is something like this and we help our neighbors out. So, that doesn't matter what your persuasion is, help out your neighbors. And if you're too far away, you can still find a way to make donations and make a difference.
Absolutely. And I want you to put a pin in that sentiment right there, because I'm going to come right back to it here in just a second. I just want to get these headlines out real quick that the Georgia Governor Brian Kemp said a couple nights ago. He has suspended the gasoline tax in the state of Georgia. He says, as Georgians recover from Hurricane Helene with the support of our legislative partners, I have suspended the gas tax for the duration of this state of emergency, bringing relief to communities who continue to rely on fuel to power their homes and necessary equipment. That's about 32 cents a gallon right there that he's suspending. So look, it's a drop in the bucket, but we need lots of gallons of fuel to get through this crisis. And so that's one step in the right direction for sure. And just an update, this came out about 19 hours ago. More than 1.4 million people in the Southeast are still without power. South Carolina actually is the state with the most customers in the dark. And that's kind of crazy because we heard most of the devastation was kind of centered around North Carolina. You didn't get as much of it in South Carolina, but they do have more residents without power right now. Over 500,000 people in South Carolina without power. Georgia has 412,000 and North Carolina with 359,000. So lots of people still dealing with this right now. And the reason I asked you to put a pin in what you were talking about, helping out your neighbor, I feel like you and I had a conversation here recently, and I don't remember if it was on the podcast or on the air, so I'll just kind of recap it. But we talked about how, back in, I do remember it. It was our 9/11 special. We talked about how 9/11 galvanized the country, how it was this terrible tragedy. A lot of people died needlessly, and everybody in that aftermath of that was an American. It didn't matter whether you were red state, blue state, hippie, farmer. You were a red-blooded American at that point, and everybody was for the same cause. I asked if you thought, or maybe I surmised that maybe something like that might have to happen again before our nation gets back to where it used to be. Back to patriotic, back to helping your neighbor, back to not writing people off because of their political opinions or their opinions on pop culture and the like. Is this, Denny, something that's sort of akin to that? I mean, we've got a lot of innocent lives lost here, approaching 200 at this point. We've got millions of people without power. We've got 4, 5, 6 different states that are affected by this. Some places are cut off from society at large in general. I feel like this could kind of move us in that direction. The South needs help right now, and it seems to me like a lot of people are really picking themselves up by their bootstraps and going to offer that help.
I certainly hope so. Fingers are crossed, prayers to those people. I hope it doesn't degenerate into finger pointing and political bullshit. People need help, and that's all I can say is, they need help. If it would have happened here, we would be the ones needing help. And actually, there's another storm brewing right there at the Yucatan, in between, Yucatan and Cuba. Don't know what it's going to do yet, but it's got about a 50% chance of development over the next few days. So what if it came ashore and they got hammered again?
I don't even want to think about that. That's for sure. Well, take care of yourself out there. Take care of your family. Help your neighbor. I guess that's the one thing that Denny and I can pass on here for sure is that, you know what, if you see somebody that's down on their luck having a tough time, we've talked about it before on the show, you'll be amazed at what just a smile can do for somebody. But if you help them out in their time of need, you might never understand the true impact of that. But trust me, it'll be there.
One more footnote, if we can, before we move on. I know you need to get moving, but years in Florida, I compiled a list of hurricane prep. And
good idea.
One of the most important things right now that brings to mind, and I sort of touched on that, is family and friends, people that love you and care about you in these situations. They want to know you're okay, but say you don't have power, you can't be on the phone all day calling everybody. Obviously, you can't answer the phone every time, hopefully you've got lots of friends and family. And so I've encouraged people to, prior to the storm or whatever the event is, to reach out to everybody and just say, okay, this is a for instance, but all right, I'm going to post on Facebook just to let everybody know we made it through the storm. And so as soon as you get some internet access, you post on Facebook, tag people that are important to you. That may not be your social media of choice. I'm just using that as an example, but just set it up ahead of time that, hey, this is how I'm going to reach out and let everybody know. So people aren't 3-4, days or a week wondering, are you okay? It's that simple. If anybody wants the whole list, you can reach out to me. I'll be glad to share it with you because I've ridden out a lot of hurricanes.
There you go. Well, I think that is something it's so important to think about. Everybody used to have landlines, and back when these things happened in the 90s, you might lose power for a little bit, but it wasn't like today when the first utility after the power that comes back on is the internet. And your phones might just be out for a while because who knows? I'm sure they've got towers down in droves out in the South right now. And cell phones might not be back for weeks, but they will be sure to get that internet back up and moving. So it might be a good time to reassess your family's emergency preparedness, especially when it comes to that whole communication part of it, because we communicate differently now than we did 30 years ago, even 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So it's important to reassess those things. Stop, drop, and roll is always going to be the way to go if you're on fire, but the rest of this stuff kind of changes as the world evolves. So it's a great point, Denny. Be sure to reassess that and make sure that you use this disaster. If it didn't affect you, use it as a reason to create a plan for when one does. Because, look, as one thing about the United States of America, it doesn't matter what corner of this country you live in, you're either going to get covered with a blizzard, you're going to get hit with a hurricane, a tornado's going to rip through your backyard, or the entire West Coast will catch on fire. Natural disasters are something that we have here in the United States, and pretty frequently too. So it's always smart to be prepared, and especially you drivers out there, just take some extra care if you're headed down into that region or you've got something headed out that way, because, man, it's going to be a nightmare for months. I mean, the cleanup effort, we have a person on our team that is from Tennessee, and while he was a couple counties over from the devastation, he said he saw bridges floating down rivers. I mean, you think about that. The river is high enough to carry the bridge that goes across it away. Holy shit is one thing that I would say in that scenario. So everybody be careful out there and keep your eyes out. And if you got a neighbor that's in need of help, like we said, man, give them a hand, especially this week, because it's not the only bad news coming, Denny. And you mentioned it. It's all been bad. I'm coming with more bad news. I hope you're ready for it. East and Gulf Coast ports strike. And we know that they walked out Tuesday at midnight, actually Tuesday morning at midnight. So it would have been Monday night at midnight. From New England all the way to Texas, stranding billions in trade. It says here approximately 50,000 ILA union longshoremen were walking off the job at East Coast and Gulf ports from New England to Texas starting at 12:01 Eastern on Tuesday after failing to reach an agreement with ports ownership on a new contract. This is the first strike of this union since 1977. Between 43 and 49%, Denny, of all U.S. imports and billions of dollars in trade monthly move through the U.S. East Coast and Gulf ports. The International Longshoremen's Association, the largest maritime union in North America, said in a Tuesday statement that ILA President Harold Daggett, a statement from Harold Daggett, that he wants a $5 per year pay increase over the next 6 years, all royalties for containers handled, and strict language against automation. Look, this could be really, really, really bad for the transportation industry. And this is interesting to me. You know, my grandfather was a longshoreman at the port of Newport here in Oregon for my mom's entire life growing up. And my grandfather was a very strictly religious Catholic man. He was a former service member. He was actually a military PO, police officer, I believe. Very by the book. And he used to tell us stories about how the longshoremen on the boats in Newport, they'd back a boat full of Honda motorcycles up. And there'd be a bunch of trucks waiting. One of the trucks was the truck that the bikes were going on. And the rest of the trucks were various longshoremen's trucks. And back then, nothing was digital. Everything was kept in a paper log. So if a boat came in with 400 bikes on it and the truck only left with 395, well, that was just the way it went back then. And I know that the longshoremen's unions back in the day used to be kind of infiltrated by the mob. They stole a lot of things off these boats. Now that's not the case. Now they are very well paid. This is a very well paid job being a longshoreman. Good benefits. A lot like being a truck driver. If you're willing to put in that kind of work, longshoreman is a good career to have. But we're talking about almost 50% of U.S. imports just sitting on a dock right now, Denny. It's a little bit uncertain. Of course, we're at a deadlock. The ports don't want to pay, and the union says pay or we're leaving. They left. What now?
What now is Christmas.
Exactly.
Think about it. They didn't strike now because they're stupid. Christmas season's coming up. In fact, I've already told my family that Amazon Prime's coming up the 8th and 9th. I'm going to start Christmas shopping because if this thing stretches on, in fact, more pointedly, I said, if you've got, like my grandkids, I said, if there's a special toy that they need this Christmas that you need for them to have, go ahead and buy it now. Because, come the Black Friday sale, they may not have them.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I listened to a representative from the ILA union talk to, CNN or MSNBC, whoever was out there. Maybe it was Fox. I don't know. But they asked this guy, like, what about Americans right now? What do you have to say to Americans that are watching 50% of their imports and all these billions in trade set there stagnant? And he said, well, now you know who we are. Now you know that those are, you're saying those people, but you're talking about us. And he said the ports, or the government, I guess, is actually who this is. The government has the capital to make this all go away. Now, I'm not concerned about whether or not you're a pro-union or anti-union guy. I'm not looking to get political here, but I want your take on that because you were a truck driver. You were one of these guys that without you and guys like you, those shelves don't get full. And you truck drivers have a very special understanding of that I feel like a lot of other people at large in the world do not understand. When you hear him say that, Denny, or you hear me recount it to you, what goes through your mind?
Give me that quote again, please.
She said, what about all the Americans that are going to have empty shelves in the next few weeks? And he said, now you understand who the longshoremen truly are. You're not talking about them. You're talking about us.
That's not unlike, they talk about if truckers would stop driving for X number of days, you'd know who we are. And there's a lot of truth to that. One thought that I had, and it sticks with me, is this is not unlike discussions that you and I have had in the last few months over automation, over, changes in the trucking industry. That's some of the things they're worried about. They're worried about like automating, and which is going to eliminate jobs. They want assurances that, their job's not going to go away. And it's not so different than self-driving trucks. So I get that. I don't know what a longshoreman makes. I have no idea. I don't know if they're being unreasonable or not. I just know that it's going to affect everybody. It's not just the trucking industry. If this thing stretches on, it's going to affect every household in this nation. Because just like if trucks don't deliver stuff, if we can't get it off the ships and put it on the trucks, then it ain't coming to your house either.
Yeah. A typical longshoreman's salary, according to CBS News, can exceed $100,000, but not without logging substantial overtime hours. Looks like about $30 an hour. You're probably looking at, $75,000 a year, something like that. It's not a terrible job by any means. It's not you're not making doctor money or surgeon money either, though. So, look, we talk about blue collar workers. These guys are blue-collar workers. There's some labor involved. They're working around dangerous equipment, huge equipment. You think about the last time you drove by a big port and just watched all the things going on there. They're picking up gigantic cargo containers and with cranes and moving them around and stuff. It's a dangerous job, just like the one that everybody listening to this podcast does. And listen, I'm torn here because I think our government spends too much money. I've said that before. That's one flaw I think our government has is we have spent and spent and spent and spent, and there's no end to that road. So when I hear something like the government has the capital to change this, I think you're right. But what you're also saying is that I have the capital to change this, and I don't want more money shoveling in. That's just my own personal opinion. That and 50 cents won't buy you a cup of coffee. Please take it with a grain of salt for what you will. But there's obviously a conversation to be had here. Somebody's getting over on somebody else, and it would appear at this point in time that the union thinks it's the government that's getting over on them. And they're not going to come back to work until they get it figured out. I assume there will be some sort of replacement workers. They will be called scabs by the people that are on the picket line. But I do believe that's kind of a derogatory term for some people that are going to be picking up the slack that we really need as Americans to be picked up right now. We just got done talking about close to 200 people dead, communities cut off from the ability to even get rigs in right now. They're bringing supplies to storm-affected areas on the back of mules, and we're striking in the ports. That's going to mean that supplies are even harder to get. That's going to mean that toilet paper's nowhere to be found on the shelves anymore. Bottled water right now in those neighborhoods, in those communities, bottled water is probably a luxury item. You probably can't find a store with bottled water, and you don't have water at your house. You see where I'm going with this? This is bad timing, Denny. If there's anything, you mentioned Christmas. That's our biggest shopping time of the year. How about all the people out there on the East Coast that are already going through it, and now we're going to go ahead and just shut down the ports for a little while? I mean, this thing
Well,
could
if you want to tie
really
the two
bad.
events together, just think about, and I don't understand this because the southeastern United States is covered with southern pine forest. The northwestern United States is covered with pine forests. But why we import most of our lumber from like Norway and Finland, I don't understand. Never. I just shake my head at that. But there's a lot of rebuilding to be done. And if that lumber can't get off the ships, then I guess the sawmills in the United States can crank up and get really busy, but that's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah, it'd be really nice to see them crank up and get busy again because, I've said it on this podcast before. The reason that my state catches on fire every damn year and we lose so many acres of beautiful forest land is because we don't manage it anymore. We just let it go and go and go, and then it catches on fire and it burns down. And in 150 years, it'll be beautiful again. We're never going to get to see that. And I that's a little bit selfish of me to say it like that, but you're right, Denny. We could bring the logging industry back to the way that it was in the early 90s in the United States.
Well,
and
we could bring it back so it's more economical or more ecological is what I mean to say. Instead of just clear cutting, select cutting, leave the forest, pull the stuff that's already fallen or the stuff that's going to die, pull those out. We could still harvest a lot of lumber. Might not be as efficient for the guy making the big bucks, but it could still be done. I've seen lumber mills, small ones in both Texas and Louisiana, that they still pull them out by mules because it's easier. They're only harvesting a select number of logs and they pull them out by mule rather than, like I say, clear cutting the entire thing. And if you do that, that's going to save the environment as well. But, well, we can get off on all sorts of shit with that. But
yeah,
this dock strike, to get back to what we're supposed to be talking about, is if it stretches on, it's going to be crippling. You just don't know all of the things that come in through those ports. Virtually, I think just about all of the automobiles, the foreign manufactured automobiles that come in, they come in either the port of LA or Houston.
Yeah, well, by American right, but a lot of these are also being manufactured overseas. I mean, I had a Ford Focus. That thing was built in Germany. It just depends on what car you're going to buy. And trust me, this is not good for the auto industry either. The auto industry just came off of COVID, not having any inventory, not being able to get any inventory until almost 2 years after COVID. They finally get inventory, and what happens? United Auto Workers strike. Okay, well, we got that cleaned up. What now? We got a giant storm, and we're going to strike at half the ports or over half the ports in the United States. This is bad for so many different industries. I heard a contractor the other day talking about it, saying we just got to the point where plywood wasn't $8 a sheet anymore. We're actually starting to get work. We're starting to build more houses. We're starting to go back to pre-COVID where we feel like we're working all the time because people can afford the building materials. Not anymore. That whole thing went out the window Tuesday at midnight. So, and we'll keep you updated on this. I mean, look, I'm sorry this is kind of a doom and gloom segment. I'll be honest with you. Emo Marcus is back in full effect if you really want to get crazy with it. But this is what we're living right now, and this stuff affects you guys as drivers out there, and so we want to have a conversation about it, and we'd love to hear from you too. If you want to have a conversation about any of this type of stuff, I want to hear from drivers that are on the road right now. I want to know how the storm affected you. Did it affect your route? Do you have family members that were affected? Is everyone okay? Come and tell us about that. What are you hearing about the ports? I know that word travels out there on the CB and at the truck stops. We want to get you drivers in here to talk about some of this stuff. So if you're listening to this and it sparks your fancy, go ahead and reach out to your dispatcher or reach out to Sherry there at the office, and she'll put you in touch with us. We can get a driver on here to join you and I and maybe cheer us up a little bit, Denny, because, wow, that's a rash of bad news, man.
Yes, it is. And, final note, if you will, just keep in mind that, yeah, you can get around this and you can get into the Carolinas, you can get out of the Carolinas, but every alternate route that's open is going to be like rush hour traffic.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's not going to be easy.
Allow yourself plenty of time if you've got to go down there. Personally, I'd be telling Stacy, keep me in the Northwest. Keep me up near Marcus.
Yeah, see, finally he wants to come over here and hang out with me. We got to burn down half the eastern seaboard to make that happen, but hey, he'll get this way. No, I'm just playing around, Denny. Always great chatting with you about this stuff. I love your insight and your point of view on it, because you've been a truck driver, and you give me a kind of a peek behind the curtain there on what might be going on in the driver's heads. So always great having you around here. Thank you for joining me for this segment, as well as our Truckers Christmas Group segment. I want to do a real quick shout out to the drivers, though, before we wrap this whole thing up. We were going to do something during this segment, and I wasn't able to drum up any drivers for it. So I'm going to go ahead and put the call out to you guys right here on the podcast. Denny brought up a really good idea the other day, and it was about hobbies. And I'm just going to let you present the idea to the drivers right now, because we're looking for drivers to talk to about Denny's idea.
Well, I'm just thinking that since I retired, I'm having a blast. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. And I know a number of people, not all truckers, but other people that they retire and then they want to go back to work because they're bored out of their minds. They don't know what to do. They haven't developed any other interests. For me, I've built me a little audio studio here, and we do the podcast. I do some other things for radio, some audio production. I've got a woodworking shop out back that I go out there and play. I go for a run. Since I came off the road, I've gotten back in shape and started running. So I have other interests. And I'm thinking that might be what's lacking in some of these guys that retire and just they're lost. They don't know what to do. They sit on the couch and watch Jerry Springer, I guess. I don't know. But, it could be golf or fishing or maybe you're a painter. Maybe you pick up a tuba and join an oompa band. That's what I'd kind of like to hear is what are your interests? Because we might spark somebody that hadn't thought of this, that's maybe a few years away from retirement that can start thinking along those lines and find something to do. Volunteering is another great thing. I used to do a lot of that when I was in Austin, Texas, and in Florida as well. But there's just a multitude of things you could do. You don't have to retire and then just do nothing.
So we want to talk to you about that. We want to get some drivers on here with some cool hobbies. And talk to them about their hobbies, talk about how they got into it, talk about how they got their start. Is it something they've been doing since they were a kid, something they picked up late in life? We just want to hear from you guys out there. So maybe you're a woodworker like Denny. Maybe you're a metal worker. Maybe you're an artist. I'd love to talk to artists, musicians. Denny and I both have a huge soft spot for music, and both are musicians in certain senses ourselves. So all of these things. Are you maybe you're a regional driver and you're home every night and you're like a city league softball player and you're a badass. Like, I would love to talk to anybody with any hobby under the sun, because like you said, Denny, it's almost kind of a way to present all these hobbies to someone that might be looking for one in retirement. And maybe this will keep them retired rather than put them back on the road, because I know there ain't no way. I'd have to make you one hell of an offer to get you back out on the road now. You're pretty happy where you're at.
I'm loving it, man. After being gone for so many years, it's not my hobby, but every morning I get up and I make coffee for Dawn. I pack her a lunch. I make her breakfast. I give her a hug, kiss her, and she heads out the door. And then I sit down and have my coffee.
That's a good man right there. That's a good man. My wife won't let me make her coffee because I make it too weak. But that just means that she has to get up earlier than me in the morning. So I still kiss her goodbye and send her on her way and everything, but I don't have to get up before her and make her coffee because she knows I'll screw it up. So
That ain't rocket science.
it's very true. I don't know if I should have admitted that on here. All right, we're out of time today.
Actually,
Denny, I
he
appreciate
can learn
you.
how to make coffee. He's just lazy.
You're blowing up my spot, man. Come on. Listen, H&M Trucking, we appreciate you all being here today. Thanks for downloading the episode. Don't forget to go over to our new website, podcast.hmtrucking.com, and check out all the fun stuff over there. We've got your driver stats from the newsletter up there. We've got every episode. We've got some pictures that you drivers have submitted. And when our Veterans Day episode happens the first week in November, that's where you're going to be able to find all the pictures of you guys in uniform that you've been sending in to us for that episode. And there's our last reminder for the day. Send us a picture of you in uniform if you would like to be involved in our Veterans Day episode. We're going to put all those pictures up on the website. We're also going to put them into the YouTube video for the podcast so that we can honor as many of our great veterans as want to be involved in the show. You can send in a picture. You don't have to come on the show. Send in a picture with a note. If you'd like Denny and I to read something, we're more than happy to do that. Or when you send it in, say, hey, I want to come on the show. Perfect. We're looking for as many vets as we can get on for that episode. Now's the time. It's the beginning of October. We got to get those wheels moving. We only got a month. So head over to podcast.hmtrucking.com, submit your pictures over there, or send them to Sherry or myself. That's the way to do it. And that pretty much wraps up today's show. Do you want to say it? You've never said it.
What, the cheesehead thing?
Well, I'm going to make you say it right if you're going to say it. I'm not going to let you turn me into some damn Green Bay Packer fan over here, Denny.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
There it is.
I got my shirt buttoned.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.